Chanakya and how he is related to corporate leadership. It has been jointly organized by the Departments of Commerce and IKS. And I, on behalf of Department of IKS and Department of Commerce, welcome our speaker for the day, Ms. Simmin Bawa. It's a pleasure to have her here. Simmin has also been our resource person in the last two IKS certificate courses. I have heard her and it's a delight to listen to her. So welcome, Simmin. Before she starts her session, let me just quickly introduce her. She's I think she has a very interesting what should I say career overall. So Simmin Bawa serves as the head of the department and assistant professor in the Department of Philosophy at Jai Hind College, Empowered Autonomous, where she has been teaching for 18 years. She has submitted her PhD thesis to the University of Mumbai and is awaiting her viva voce. Her areas of specialization include applied ethics, philosophy of religion, gender philosophy, and business and corporate ethics. In addition to her academic pursuits, and this is where I feel the most interesting part comes in, and I think this will appeal to you also, Rita. In addition to her academic pursuits, she is a trained and certified yoga teacher, counselor, and past life regression therapist, enriching her holistic and interdisciplinary approach to teaching. Ms. Baba has presented and published numerous research papers at national and international seminars and conferences, and she has received the Best Teacher Award for 3 consecutive years at her institution. With her blend of scholarly expertise and integrative training, she continues to inspire students while fostering a reflective and ethically grounded learning environment. So, welcome, Simmin. The session is all yours.
Thank you, Madhu, and I thank the entire institution and the departments of IKS and Commerce to give me this opportunity. This particular topic is very close to my heart, as the book Arthashastra is something that I have read so many times for a very long time, and I've finished it end to end. And every time I complete it, I start it once again. So I'm very delighted that I have been given this opportunity. I'm going to share my PPT, and I hope that this particular lecture will be of much use to you. I'm a teacher who doesn't like too much of theory. I like it all very much applied to our everyday life. I'm glad that I got this particular topic. I teach open electives of work-life ethics, business and corporate ethics alike. So this is a topic that is very close to my heart, and students, come, let us begin. So I very proudly put the photographs of our country over here. And so, so as we start, that Arthashastra is one of the most fascinating works of ancient India. Now, as I showed you the book, which is such a monumental book, it's so huge and there are so many aspects that are covered under it. Now, the book was written as a manual for states craftsmanship, for administration and economic policy, but this is something that India has contributed to the world. When he wrote this in the Western world, we already had Plato's Republic, but yet there is a vast difference between Plato's Republic and the Arthashastra. Now, as a scholar, okay, he was as Kautilya, he was also known as that. His work was all about training the rulers of the time, governing them, and doing proper resource allocation. Now, the moment we say resource allocation, students, it could just mean not just in terms of where will gold go, where will the investments go, where will all the raw material go, but it also means the resource allocation in terms of people. He knew that we had to identify manpower, we had to identify what are their specializations, and from there we had to build in. So for him, everything was a matter of structures, how to approach them, how to build all these structures. Of course, in those times when so many wars were taking place, maintaining the security and the alliances was very important for him. As such, if you read the book, it is a training manual by itself, and he used this particular manual for the entire transformation of Chandragupta from a normal citizen to a very well-known monarch. Now, Chanakya was also known as Vishnugupta, besides being called Kautilya. And just imagine, class, this is the 4th century BC that he wrote this monumental work. What must have gone in his mind is what you should continuously think, that as an author of the book, what was happening? Was he learning? Was he so organized? Was he systematic? Was he ahead of his time? Indeed, he was. And how that today we take this ancient text and we apply it to the contemporary corporate ethics, and we try to understand what is it that we can apply from that. So his guidance was very transformative of for our country, and there were so many comprehensive topics that he speaks about: diplomacy, military science, taxation. For him, taxes were a very important aspect, gender, warfare. In fact, he has even mentioned how women can play a very important role in warfare. And all of this came under a very important aspect. Now, this aspect was the Purusharthas. Purusharthas were the aims of one's life. Now, Purusharthas were something that were given to us by, just a minute, just a minute, just excuse me.
I think Pooja ma'am has also joined the session.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Apologies, apologies, apologies. Yes. So this entire work comes, it all starts, his work starts from as early as the Purusharthas. Purusharthas were the 4 aims of human life. Now, these 4 aims are mentioned in the Vedas. They're more elaboratively given in the Upanishads. Now, these 4 shaped man's destiny, literally, and I'll tell you why. The first was dharma, which was the ethical conduct, which meant no matter what I do in my life, no matter what, I have to be ethical in my conduct, be it in my personal life, in my professional life, in my thought, word, that's my speech, as well as in my action. One had to be so careful. Now, this was based on the assumption that all of us have been given a very important internal tool, and that internal tool is a moral tool, that is your conscience. You must have heard the phrase, my conscience is pricking me if I do something wrong. So the conscience was this inner tool given to us that could discern between right and wrong, good and bad, and good and evil. Therefore, everything had to be based on dharma, everything, no matter what I did, every aspect of my life. And this gave rise to a text called the Manusmriti, which was considered to be one of the Dharma Shastras. In fact, it was the only one of its kind. The second came in economic prosperity. People of that generation recognized that without money, we cannot live. Financial resources are very important, be it to maintain the army, to pay the taxes, to maintain the palace of the kings in terms of natural calamities. In every way possible, money was very important, but money had to be earned through dharma, through morality alone. The third were human aspirations, which were called as kama. Kama means pleasure. And pleasure, both sensual, sexual pleasure. And there was a text written called the Kama Sutra by Vatsyayan. And the Kama Sutra spoke about how one can get ethical pleasure all the time, and always reminding man that your dharma has to rule your life. Now, it was believed, there wasn't a text for moksha, so there is no moksha shastra. It was believed that if I conducted my economic life and my sensual sexual life, keeping in mind dharma, and dharma continuously going on in my life, I will automatically attain moksha. Now, from that point of view, when Arthashastra was written by Kautilya, when Chanakya wrote this, The entire book was a living monumental text because it was a very practical text. Everything that is written in the text was practiced in those days during the Mauryan Empire. So I'm going to first start off with the 7 core principles of the Arthashastra. Now, for them, the first important person was Swami. Swami was the ruler or the king, and he was the central authority. All decisions came from him. He was a directing spirit of the state by itself. Kautilya emphasized that a king had to have discipline. See, class, if I am not going to be disciplined, what kind of a leader will I be? I need to show discipline in my everyday life, and therefore I'm going to motivate the people around me to be disciplined as well. Secondly, he had to be knowledgeable, which means one had to acquire a lot of knowledge. Now, class, how can a king acquire a lot of knowledge? The acquisition of knowledge takes place when the person is educated. So in those days, the student would be educated for the first 25 years of their life, which was a very important aspect, where you could learn about how money could be handled, warfare could be handled, people skills, and many other skills were given. But along with that, class, the moment I take the knowledge and I apply it to my practical life. So this is knowledge, this is my practical life. I have applied it. That is when knowledge became wisdom. Because remember, the king had to do justice. He had to take the most important decisions in one's life. Therefore, to be wise was important, and he had to have knowledge which was 360 degrees. He needed to know what is happening in the kingdom, not just inside, but what is happening outside, because they had to protect themselves from invasions. So the value of a system of the government tends to largely depend on how wise is the ruler. Is the ruler also going to look at only his gains, or is he going to look at the gains of everybody? Because if the kingdom is prosperous, the Swami will automatically be prosperous. And of course, he had to be very ethical. The second was Amatya. Amatya were the ministers or the officials. Now, these had to be handpicked. One had to see how much knowledge they have, how much wisdom they have, which role do they fit in best. And that is how one could say that they had portfolios that had to be managed. Now, they were only helping hands for the Swami. They had to give advice. They had to maintain integrity. They had to maintain loyalty. They had to be very skilled in everything that they did. Today's times, this is very important because a role is given to any individual only on the basis of the ability that they had. And of course, the most important was they needed stability in the kingdom. So they are not going to change the portfolio very often. They're not going to change their roles very often. Also, remember, this was the time of specialization, which meant that at that time, you can only do one thing and do it very well. That is where your focus will be. Now we come to Janapada, or the territory and the populations. Now, what happened at that time? People were not very educated, but the kingdom itself was extremely wealthy. So they had to focus on building more wealth for the country. And of course, the kingdom had to be stable. Stable in the sense that there shouldn't be any foreign invasion, and the people should be kept secure all the time. So they had to monitor everything. People's lives, what were they doing, the land, agriculture, their economic activities, and at the same time they had to support the population, support them so that the Swami gets a lot of support from them and they feel supported by the Swami. It had to be a two-way process. It couldn't be one and only one. So that is how the entire land, and because we were largely into agriculture at that time, so the land had to be extremely prosperous and you had to make the most out of it. The next was Durga, or the fortified capital. Now, this was a symbol of one's defense and security, one of the most required. As I said, there were a lot of enemies. Everybody wanted their piece of land to defeat their empire. The Maurya empire was difficult, but not impossible. Sometimes what happened was enemies were within the very territory. They were not outside. In fact, people within would go and give information to outsiders. Of course, and outsiders would take advantage of that. So therefore, strategic urban planning was required, and constant capital is required. You have to feed your army, you have to train your army. Just because wars are not happening doesn't mean that the army is not doing anything. Constantly money was required for them. And of course, building of shields, swords of various kinds, arms, ammunitions was always required, and giving them a very rich diet as well. So they believed in investing in their army and taking a large part of the taxes and putting it over there, because you never know what will happen in the coming times. The fifth was kosher. Kosher was the treasury. Now, financial stability is a key aspect, but there have to be correct people who will take care of it, and the administration would be proper. They should know very well that the money is not going here and there. It's going towards administration, defense, and very importantly, the welfare of the masses. And of course, you should have some emergency contingency amount as well, just in case if there is a war, or there is an expansion, there is a deal, or anything of the sort. Even in those times, marriages were a very expensive affair, because when a king would get married, there would be a lot of money that was required, and they had to give lot of gifts in terms of elephants and horses and army and gold and silver. So money was always required. There's never a time that it wasn't required, and one had to have long term stability in the kingdom, so the treasury had to be handled very effectively. And of course, working towards growth. Sadly, at the time, they did not have fixed deposits, mutual funds, and investments in the stock market, but they had to see how the money could be kept rolling all the time. Then it was a matter of danda, or the army, or justice. Just take a photograph of the check. Huh? Yeah, danda, or the army, and the justice system. Now, of course, the king himself, Swami, would himself conduct all the justice, but he needed some kind of assistance over there. Now, this is only with pertaining to everything that was happening in the kingdom. But what about everything in terms of danda that was happening externally? So proper law and order had to be maintained. Protection to the subjects was important. He had to claim, Swami had to claim the entire legal power as well. The entire system had to be very fair, and the army had to be disciplined. The army couldn't go about doing whatever they wanted to and overthrow the Swami. Swami had complete control over everything that was happening around. So the law enforcements were strong. Their mechanisms to combat were also very strong. And for them, reinforcing the government's authority was important. Nobody could just come and overrule things. Then you had the Mitra. Mitra were the allies or the friends, and they always kept friends close to their heart. Just in case anything happens. Students, you think when you have slight tussles with your parents, you want to call up your friends and tell them, see, this happened, and you undo, all your emotions. It's called as catharsis. Or maybe sometimes you are stuck and you don't want your parents to know about it. Whom do you confide? Whose help do you take? Usually it's the friends. Even at that time, Mitra were very important in a similar manner. They would help in strengthening the entire diplomatic and military position. One is you had to have reliable allies. You can't say, this is my friend, namesake friend. No, they had to be reliable. Why? Because support was required during conflicts or political difficulties within the entire state. Such that when you tell your friends, send your army, send your elephants, soldiers, etc., they would be willing to send. And of course, it can't be a one-way friendship. It had to be two ways, which means if I send my help, at the time when you require it. You will send your help at the time when I will require it. That is how the entire equilibrium was maintained. They used to cooperate a lot with their friends. They used to bond. They would socialize. They would send gifts for one another. When there were weddings, invitations were sent. So just the way today we maintain relations with our friends, they also maintained friendship at that time, ensuring stability and mutual benefit. You get something and I get something, not one way. Now, from these seven very important principles, I'm going to build up on everything. There are quite a few aspects I will try and complete as much as possible. Now, the most important aspect of Kautilya's Arthashastra in the modern times is what we need to focus on. The first thing, there are always lessons in governance and administration. Understand this, that for them efficiency mattered a lot. If you were not suitable for your role, or if they realize mentally, physically, emotionally you are not stable, you would be replaced by somebody else, because they don't only want, sometimes we don't want someone to feel bad or they are important people, they have contacts. No, efficiency mattered the most to Kautilya at that time. It was well organized aspect because they wanted the welfare of the people. If the people are happy, you will be happy. Again, class, today, if we look at it from today's point of view in the entire corporate setup, one of the biggest assets that happen to be is your workforce, your employees. If you're going to do something for them, they will naturally have a feeling of obligation and they will also want to do something for you. Therefore, keeping your own people happy and keeping only efficient people in office was a very important norm. Secondly, the belief was that one had to be knowledgeable, disciplined, and committed to public service. Now, all three had to go hand in hand. If I have the knowledge, but I am not a disciplined person, it's not going to help. A commitment was required, is because if you're given the responsibility, you had to fulfill it. And remember, it was towards the service of the common man. That means one had to have a feeling of compassion within them, understanding though you are at this place, but what is happening in the, in terms of the ground realities with them. Are they suffering? Is there anything that they personally require? Or is there anything that has not been tapped into right now? Or are we overlooking something? See, sometimes lawmakers make laws for everybody, not understanding that maybe their realities are very different. You haven't lived what they are undergoing, so you wouldn't know what is happening. It advocates appointment of competent ministers. Here I use the word efficient, but here it is competent ministers and officials, and they had to have merit. You can't say, oh, my grandson is very good, or my son-in-law is very good, or my son is very good. You had to prove that you were good. Only if you were good did you have a chance to serve the public, and above that you shouldn't have any other ulterior motive. No personal relations to be taken into account when appointments were done. The text, the Arthashastra, continuously highlights the need for transparency. That's because if the king wants to question someone, or or if there is a case in court and they require certain information from their own officials, everything had to be transparent, and the king could do audits anytime. Today we have external auditors, internal auditors, but in those days the king would just say, today I'm going to take a tour of the kingdom, let's see what has happened. So therefore, complete transparency, and he was continuously getting updates. What is happening in the kingdom just now? What's the climate like? What are people feeling? What about agriculture? Which crop has done? And there was constant real-time information coming to him when he was in the palace on his chair. Accountability in a similar manner, and there was regular supervision being done. Now, the purpose of this was dharma. I think I already explained dharma. Dharma did not mean religion. Dharma meant morality. It meant that people are doing their duty correctly. So therefore, if one has to do one's duty correctly, there is no place for corruption. There is no place for misuse of power. And these principles continue to influence public administration and good governance practices in class till date. till date we are managing with all of these, and we proudly say that this is something that is a contribution of our nation from 4th century BC. Now, coming to the strategic thinking and diplomacy, Kautilya developed the Mandala theory. Now, this Mandala theory explains relationships between neighboring and distant states in international politics. Today, we have degrees in international politics, public policy, but in those days, he already had this Mandala theory. Now, in this theory, he said there have to be negotiations. You have to take help of your friends. Sometimes your friends will act as middlemen. The entire aspect was about protecting your national interest at that time, and it stresses that one had to be considerate, and remember, at all the times peaceful methods have to be exhausted first, which means you are not going to fight. I'm sure students over here, you have seen the cartoon Chota Bheem in your growing up days. I used to watch it when my son was young, and I used to always have a problem with him. Everybody used to worship Bhim, but my problem was anytime there is a challenge in front of him or an issue which is unethical, he would immediately lift his leg up and go flying in the air and, scream Bhim and start beating and bashing them up. But that's not the way, Kautilya's Mandala theory works. He says that one has to focus largely on having peaceful coexistence. Don't start fighting, bombing, no threats, nothing. Sit across the table, send your best political diplomats and have a conversation, so that you are using all your tools effectively, and that there are strategic plannings which are taking place. So that is how for him international relations were largely built. Coming to the economic and the financial management, now Chanakya was of the opinion that one has to have a very stable and a prosperous state, and to have stability one needed strong money. Okay, pesa. Now, they were not, though they were of the ancient times, in those days where people used to perform so many rituals and they were worshipping different types of god, polytheism was enforced, yet he was of a stable mindset and said, look, we need money. If you have ever heard students, money is evil, let me tell you, it is not. It's your perspective, your point of view towards it, which could be evil. So they recognize money was very important, coming in from different sources. It could be agriculture, taxation, gifts were also counted, and they valued money very much. So for them, if you want money, your treasury had to be very, very well managed. There had to be fair taxation. If there is drought, if there are floods, if there is hurricane, if there's a tsunami, nothing, you will not tax, you will not trouble the poor people. In those times, then what do? You take recourse to what you already have in terms of the resources, which means that they had emergency contingency funds that were kept ready. And they believe in efficient revenue collection. So collection is one aspect. One is you collect, then you start using it. You can't say, I'm only going to hoard it. Again, what are they going to spend on? They were very, very mindful and careful about that. First and foremost, they wanted to develop agriculture more and more. They wanted to develop trade as much as possible, and industries. Now, of course, their industries were not like our industries, but yes, trade did take place. And of course, promoting infrastructure to promote economic growth. Now, infrastructure, again, not like us building metros everywhere, but just creating good enough pathways for the trade and the industry to flourish. Now, they used to discuss budgeting. Where is the money going to go? What is that is most important in case if there is drought or if there is famine? First, we have to ensure that we acquire resources from our allies. We pay them money, we get food, first fill their stomachs. If there is not enough water resources, then there have to be more water resources that have to be looked into. Why? Because for them, development matter to such a great extent. Then the market regulation. Now, this is not our stock market, but in terms of the trade which was taking place at that time, and preventing any kind of tax evasion. So many of their principles were about economic planning and the public finance as well. Next, there was management and leadership insights. And let me tell you, this is my most favorite part, is because throughout the book, he's talking about management and leadership insights. In fact, in some time, we will study the effective leadership techniques as well. So the text Arthashastra for them, the most effective way was when you have a proper organizational setup. There's a proper management of the entire kingdom taking place. Now, he believed at that time that one had to be a successful leader only if you had all these qualities. And most importantly, these we have discussed earlier, but it was sound judgment. You know, there is a Hindi saying कि इंसान कच्चे कान का नहीं होना चाहिए, which means I should not believe in hearsay. I should have myself some amount of evidence which I am collecting. I am getting my own people to go out, get the information in real time. I'm not going to trust only one person. Even if the person is telling me the matter is ABC, I will myself go and do the inspection. The king was not someone who would just sit in his seat and do nothing. They were constantly monitoring. Accountability with ethical conduct was most important for them, and that is where their resource management came from. Now, if you look at the security and the law enforcement, for him, the entire stability had to be along with the prosperity, which means I am going to take account of what is happening in terms of the external affairs as well as what is happening within the entire state. And that is how a strong legal system would be built. Now, for them, the entire legal system meant that we are not only going to look at this person has done that to me, but keep making laws. Students, he had made very important laws in terms of marriage, gender, then roles that women had to play, men had to play. Then in terms of how each individual is going to maintain honesty, integrity, and all of that. The book is very well placed in terms of classifying and dividing all the texts. Now, these laws that were made, they were not sacrosanct. Thankfully, over a period of time, they would realize that the laws require revision, and a revision of the laws were done. If there was requirement of revision of the taxation system, they would do that as well. In essence, they were very, very fluid. They were not rigid at all. They believed in flexibility. And students, for law to be flexible is very important. We ourselves, y'all are commerce students, y'all would know that when GST was brought about by our government, how many times the revision took place. Why? Because they wanted the best possible taxation system for their own people. And that is when he said that everything had to be taken into account. Now, over here, I have mentioned a point that it recommends maintaining intelligence networks to detect threats, prevent crimes, and safeguard national security. They were very smart at that time. I mean, he was very smart. The author was very smart. Chanakya ensured that though in front of the people, they know who are the main people in terms of security and giving them information. But they had a lot of informers in the entire palace, in the entire area that was ruled by them. These informers would bring them what was happening in terms of hearsay, and also in terms of the grapevine is not a gossip. It means these things are happening and this is the opinion of the masses, and maybe someone is plotting, someone is planning. So it was something that they constantly required information from the people. See, there is just one king. He is depending on his ministers, he is depending on his security forces, but he also needed some informers from there. Many a times, people in the kingdom, all his ministers would know who the informers are, but there were many times where in the book he says that they should be not known by people. The king directly connects with them. The king would meet them at a time when there is no one around, maybe at night when he retires to his room. So just to ensure that there is the safeguarding of the nation's security taking place all the time. It wasn't a one-time affair. It was an all-time affair. Now, the text also speaks against corruption and fraud and punishment. There was very heavy penalty for anyone who was corrupt. Now, in those days, they used to follow the law of retribution in terms of punishment. Retribution means an eye for an eye, and that is how they had to go about things. So in case if you chopped someone's hand, your hand would be chopped. If you took money to do certain tasks, you had to pay much more than what you had. And in many times they were never scared of giving capital punishment. Capital punishment was that the criminal will be killed, because they believed at that time, if I'm going to have a virus of in terms of a person, it's going to spread. He will, in fact, motivate many others to be corrupt. And they did not want that. They wanted a very transparent system in those times. Therefore, the way we have today in terms of modern intelligence operations and all, he had already sowed the seeds of the same. Now, the Arthashastra remains one of the most earliest comprehensive works on governance in terms of administration, economics, diplomacy, and statescraft. But I want to tell you, all of this was done keeping in mind dharma or morality. Your duty, your ethics, your morals had to be everywhere, be it in governance, in administration, economics, diplomacy, statescraft, everywhere. Nobody to be harmed. No, taking recourse to violence. Of course, I just told you about something about violence, but there was an intention in it, and the intention was a good intention. So although it was written in those times, but it's very much applicable till today. And some of the aspects of this application of the modern world I'm going to share with you. First and foremost, let's look at the leadership lessons from Chanakya's work or Kautilya's work on the Arthashastra. First and foremost, the very first thing is, it was about a visionary leader. Now, the focus was on long-term goals, not so much on the short-term goals. You can have short-term goals also, but these short-term meant that they had to have a connection with the long-term goals. Today, in the corporate world, the question is, do you only build, does a corporate house only build short-term goals, or does it build long-term goals? A leader has to say, today I'm getting into this, but tomorrow I'll get into something else. I'll give you two examples from the field of construction, the entire realty business. So Godrej owned a large part of Vikhroli. They had purchased it. Of course, the government took some part of it because they wanted to build the highway. But imagine the vision at that time to buy that plot and keep. And today also they have a lot of land over there. They've got offices. They have got a railway station. Of course, that belongs to the government. They have the entire Godrej properties which are built, and there are some more which are coming through. There are long-term goals also, class, because the vision is that maybe if this is what is required now, some other time. So there is another builder which has newly entered the market. Newly means about 5 or 6 years back, and the company is Raymond. Now you will say, ma'am, but Raymond makes textiles, fabrics, and outfits, formal wear for men largely, but the plot was purchased in Thane city, and they had built a school over there. It is a very well-known school. It's called as the Sulochana Devi Singhania School. And then they had a lot of land. They had mills over there. But if you know, large part of mills of Mumbai, Thane got shifted to Gujarat. So the land was vacant, and they realized there is already a school. So what did they do? They started constructing residential complexes, and they added international schools and 11th and 12th grade as well. That is what, in terms of short-term and long-term visions, is there. Let us buy this and keep, we'll see. I'm sure, class, you can identify this with a micro example, atomic example. Your own parents have kept have purchased property for you, or they've made investments for your education, etc. Why? Because they're looking at it from a long-term point of view. The moment you were born, possibly they have purchased a life insurance policy for you. There must be something which they have kept in your name. Long-term. Of course, they are paying your short-term fees, but long-term also has been thought about. Along with that, a visionary leader had to have strategic planning. Strategic planning means look at what is happening today, look at where there is opportunity, and you strike over there. Always work for the betterment of your people. There is nothing better in investing in people. Today there are many corporates class who are giving their employees, if they know that their one of the employees is very good at their work, very very dedicated, deserves little more, they fund for their MBA. But there is a clause, and the strategic planning over here is you will not leave the organization for X number of years. Why? Because they have invested in your education. Secondly, it is anticipating the challenges and making proactive decisions. Chanakya in the book continuously says challenges will always come in. It could come from your own people. It could come from external people. But you have to take proactive decisions. You can't say Bhagwan Bharose. You can't say one day, someday. It has to be here and now. That is why you have to have a very good team and you have to discuss with them. Now, that kind of dialectic which took place at that time, today we call it brainstorming in the corporate setup. Brainstorming is very important. Of course, we already spoke about the whistleblowers, though I did not use that term. But yes, indeed, we had them as well. But anyway, coming back, so you had to anticipate certain challenges coming in. With COVID coming in, a lot has opened for us. Digital payments, online lectures, meetings. The entire world is on the web, literally. And if there is a business house which says, no, I won't do it, then either you will have to change yourself or you will perish. And here, class, I'll give you example of this brand, that is the Parsi Dairy Farm. There was only one single outlet for very many years in Marine Lines. It's opposite the Marine Line station. And they were refusing to have branches and sell their products anywhere else besides the store. Once online came in, people said, okay, who is going to go down? It's draining so much. I'll not buy Parsi Dairy Farm. Whenever I'm passing by, I'll buy it. Here, I will go and buy whatever I'm getting cheap at a discounted rate and quickly being delivered to my household. Business was falling very hugely. They ultimately had to shift to a corporate setup. Now they have franchisees and they're selling their wares and products everywhere, including DMart supermarket. Were they proactive? They delayed their decision, but it's better late than never. If I look at ethics and accountability, then students, it's a matter of the integrity you have, the fairness and the transparency you have. Here, I'll give you example of the Tatas. Tatas, in the early 1990s, there was a huge economic slowdown because of the political issues which were happening abroad, the entire war that was happening, and also over here we had our own issues in terms of the Ayodhya temple issues. So economically, we had slowed down. Tatas at that time wanted to actually stop some part of their working, just chuck them out. But they decided to call all the employees and they told them, see, we are going through a huge slump. Let's do one thing. Either we'll give you two options. Either you leave the company and you please search for a new job, and whatever letters you want, we will give it to you. Otherwise, let's do something else. You give us a chance, we'll give you 50% of the salary. As in when we start getting profits, we'll start paying you your proper salary as well as the arrears of the remaining 50%. 100% of the staff opted for option 2. Which means they were being transparent with their people, they were being fair with them. So building trust through accountability and ethical conduct, something that the text had identified so many centuries ago. Now, people-centric leadership approach, that means work for the welfare of your people and you keep motivating them. Don't stop motivating them. The more you motivate them, that much more they would want to put in their 100%. Students, I'm sure salary makes a large difference, but also what makes a difference is, your team or your team telling you very good, your team leader telling you very good, you receiving a letter from the management saying excellent work done. That is what was the vision of the text, that you have to keep the welfare of the people, encourage empathy, communication, and teamwork. And teamwork meant everyone had to work with each other, whether you like it or you don't. That way you also end up learning people skills. Training and development, I already told you that how much money they used to spend in their army. Similarly, if we have to invest in continuous learning and leadership development, there also has to be mentoring and preparing for future leaders. I told you that today's setup, they have HR trainings, they have management trainings, they have marketing trainings. But I'm already qualified. I'm already working for the corporate setup. No, but still some trainings are required nowadays in the contemporary times. Since the past 2 years, many companies are doing AI trainings for 100% of their staff. Moving on. So they also spoke about delegation and empowerment. Delegation means based on people's skills and competence, delegate the work. King did not say, I will do everything. He knew who could be identified and given the work, and build trust by empowering team members. Then access leadership in terms of maintain open communication with your employees, listen to feedback most of the times. And this text says that one has to take feedback from everybody. The king has to be ready to listen to comments which are not positive about him, and he has to make about changes. The moment we are given negative feedback, we say, oh my god, I can't believe this is me, why are they, and we start justifying. The text says no justification. You have to start making corrections, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all capable of growing. I remember reading in this supplementary of Times of India. It's called Sacred Space. So a story had come where there was a man who wanted to climb Everest, and he had trained for 1.5 years, but he couldn't accomplish it. He fell very sick, and as he had to be brought down on the stretcher, he just turned around and he looked at Everest and said, you as a mountain cannot grow, but me as a human being, I can grow. And I will come back and I will conquer you. He trained for many more years, and he knew now where he had to improve. He did not say, but I had already trained 1.5 years. He kept training, and then he went back to Everest and he did conquer the same. And this is a real story. So, in that sense, you have to be open to communication with everyone and be accessible also. You need to have leaders who are accessible and to listen to you. It's not that they are in their high mighty offices and they are told you cannot go and meet them. In fact, at that time, he had advised the kings, the swamis, that in case if someone wants to come, your darbar has to be open to all sorts of people and give X amount of time. Okay, morning 2 hours, I will listen to what the common man has to say. Remaining 2 hours, I will listen to my economic team, to my political team, to my military team, and so on. So, in terms of time management, also, they were very, very astute at it. And then people first, as I already mentioned, yeah, business ethics. So, promoting honesty, fairness, responsible decision making. You can't say only one person cannot take claim that, okay, I took the decision, I know what I did, and everything is right. No, it is always a matter of the team. The team takes the. So currently, students, I'm sure you are following up with the FIFA football matches. If a team loses, they don't identify and say, okay, because of this person, because of that player, the team takes complete responsibility. And that is how you will build a more ethical and a transparent culture. So, In terms of leaders, they had to perform well, there had to be accountability, there were timely decisions to be made. Then, in terms of prioritizing people, okay, these are the timeless wisdom. We're just falling short of time, so I'll quickly wrap up. They had to prioritize people all the time. And Chanakya's quote is, in the happiness of his subjects lies his happiness, in their welfare, his welfare. To stay accessible, he said, when a king makes himself inaccessible to his people and entrusts his work to immediate officers, he engenders, and it should be endangers confusion in business and public disaffection. Then, to cultivate accountability and balance, he said, punishment, when awarded with due consideration, makes people devoted to righteousness. So he knew when one person is punished, it sends a ripple effects, and everybody tells themselves we should not do this, otherwise we will also be punished in a similar manner. So when ill awarded, it explicits fury even among hermits. Then make timely decisions, all urgent calls he shall hear at once, but never put off, for when postponed they will prove too hard or impossible to accomplish. Then embrace vigilance and adaptability. He should be ever active in the management of his affairs and avoid idleness, for idleness is the root of all difficulties. Imagine, students, such a difficult task for the king. He couldn't be idle. Even if he wanted to be, he had to be busy all day long. So nothing like me time. Thankfully, there weren't all these digital platforms of Instagram and all, and giving him time for doom scrolling. Yet I also want to tell you that he had enough time for entertainment, because they had courtesans, they used to appreciate a lot of art as well as aesthetics. Today also, taking of breaks is important. You are giving leaves, but the king was never given a leaves. The subjects could take a leave. At the most, the king could take a medical leave. That's the maximum, but he quickly had to get back in chair. Then value teamwork and build strong relationships. A single wheel does not move the chariot. Turn threats into opportunities. So he who is prepared for the worst and works for the best shall not be defeated. Lead with vision and integrity. A leader's greatest quality is to envision and adhere. So the text therefore spoke about the central mode of management, that strategic planning, organizational decision, leadership development, human resource management, financial administration, and risk assessment, followed by competitive intelligence, crisis management, performance evaluation, ethical governance, public accountability, and sustainable prosperity. So, just last words. Chanakya's constant reminder of the readers of this text was that first and foremost, you have to verify information, consult multiple experts, examine alternative scenarios, evaluate risk, avoid emotional reactions, prepare contingency plans. And today's corporate world reflects, it mirrors each and every one of those aspects that I have mentioned. Further, he was also of the opinion that of course we are applying to it, that modern business ethics should emphasize, as the book has taught us, transparency, accountability, fairness, responsibility, integrity, and stakeholder welfare. And student stakeholders are not your employees alone. The banks which are giving you loans, your customers, your clientele, then everyone who is involved, your auditors, internal, external, all of them. And good corporate governance requires accountability, transparency, very strict internal controls, independent oversight, and responsible decision making, financial integrity, and stakeholder protection. And that's about it. If there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them.
Any questions anyone has? Want to ask?
Fabulous, I said.
Or any clarification you want?
If students are still taking time to ask a question, I would like to.
Yes.
Although I don't think that it is strictly related to management, this is out of sheer curiosity that I am asking you. You mentioned Manusmriti. I mean, all of us have heard of Manusmriti as a Dharma Shastra. So what are your opinions about it. And because it is such a controversial text, particularly in the Indian context and our patriarchal culture. So, how would you relate it to this subject of management?
So, in terms of actually one of the most important things that the Manusmriti has taught me, I have read that book as well, end to end, and I did it when I was doing some research on gender ethics. But one of the things that I learned is, see, Madhu, sometimes we learn things from a person, those things which they did not do that they should have done. So I think it is a highly overrated book, in terms of they were looking at everything from the short term point of view, not from the long term point of view. That's one thing. Second is, they underestimated the role of a woman completely. In fact, chapter 18 of that book speaks completely against women. Third is that they spoke about constant hierarchy. Madhu, I really like one thing which I tell my students of business and corporate ethics class. I tell them that in the Western world, every employee calls the other by their first name. Okay, Bill Gates is called Bill, or at the most, they will call him Mr. Bill. Junior most staff also, they call them by their first name, which means what? They are not saying they have a hierarchy. They have, but it's not boundaries that are set. We have come from an imperial setup wherein we say boss, sarji, hanji, naji, but there it is not so. In fact, here, if you don't say boss and madam and sir and all, it's looked down upon. But in case if you have so much of transparency, it actually brings about more ease of work. So there are a lot of things which I have learned from the book, what not to do.
Okay. So, students, open to you. And Simmin has done a fabulous job of time management. I
Yeah.
told her 55 minutes. She ended it at the 54th minute. Wonderful.
Yeah. So otherwise I can go on and on, but I know that, we are in this online world, and it is unfair that I take up time of students. And there were very important points which I thought just could be highlighted then and there. So just one thing that I want to tell everyone, since students are taking time or they are a little inhibited. So the entire book has got a lot of beautiful contents. So, they have started off by state and the constitutional elements, then the role of the king, the well organized state, treasury, sources, then it's the various departments of the government, then the law, justice, foreign policy, defense, and war. So the book by itself is very well organized. And I will highly recommend students, though you are from a commerce background, but you must read this book, because there are very, very good insights in the book, something that you can carry on ahead, especially if you plan to pursue MBA. There is a paper on Indian ethos which every MBA school teaches, and Bhagavad Gita ethics and Arthashastra ethics for the purpose of business. This is very important, and is of complete application, not just from the point of view of Indian knowledge system, but also what is important to us, and is culturally little sensitive.
So we have our principal also attending your session, and I would like to call ma'am if she wants to share something about it.
Good
So,
evening, Simmin. How are you?
Hello, ma'am. I'm very
I'm
well.
good. I think we have met after a very long time.
Long time.
If
Yes,
you
ma'am.
remember me,
Of course,
we had
absolutely.
met, I think 7, 8 years back somewhere.
Yeah,
It could
Hasina,
be
ma'am,
some.
and you were good friends, and you would come to Jai Hind
Uh-huh.
College, and in the staff room, I used to meet
Yeah.
you several times.
Yes, for moderation. And I think what a coincidence. In my earlier years, I had read Chanakya Niti and a bit of Arthashastra. And today, the Department of Commerce and Department of IKS together has organized this session. So when I saw this, I asked Rita, who gave you this name? So she said, Madhu ma'am has given, and I said, I know her. She's from Jai Hind. So that's how the world is small. And I was so happy to see a lot of faculty also joining in. I put it on the group that those who have related to commerce background and management background attend this. And so good to see today raining badly and everybody is at home, but I can see at least 80, 90 students also attending. I'm sure, as she said, this book is so good and I hope we have this in our library. If not, please order this book in our library. I'm sure it will be there. But even if it is not there, Madhu and Rita, if you can order this for our students, as we have also brought in library hours in our timetable. So students should go in library and read such stalwarts books. And as she said, if you are doing MBA, Indian Ethos of Management, yesterday we was talking to BOS Commerce and we said, why not to talk about our own Indian management gurus rather than talking about Henry Fayol's and Peter Drucker's, because our own authors have also done well, but somewhere in the history they have not been mentioned. And Madhu and Priya are stalwarts of business history from commerce point of view. So they have been always introducing newer concepts. And today it was such a delight to meet Simmin after such long time. And I joined at 4:15 and I was listening to it when you were talking about good leader. I was thinking whether I practice certain things which should not be against the system. And as a leader, when you practice certain things, when you talk about it from the Chanakya's time, you feel glad that you are following the right path. So from my side, can I request students to at least switch on their cameras and we can see their houses? Come on. Simran will know that she's talking to not black screens, but only Dharti, Neha, and Rita and Madhu are there, and I'm there. Come on, switch on your cameras. I know you may be in your house cut dresses, but it's okay. Come on, students, come up so that we can even take a group
Neha,
picture.
just take a click picture also.
Acha, does the system allow them to switch on their cameras?
Yes, that you check. Come on, students. Yes, Vatsal came in. I'm so happy.
Also share the feedback form, Dharti, to the students.
Yes,
Send the link.
I can see Mahi. I can see Saloni. I can not see anybody else. I saw Soumya. Come on, switch on your cameras so that we know that you all were listening and not sleeping. Come on.
Okay,
Yes, I
please
can
do
see
fill in the
that.
feedback forms also.
Yes, yes. That's now you can. And those who have attended with cameras on, give them 2 attendances. Rest all 50.
So I hope the
Yes, now
session.
everybody is switch on.
Yeah,
Yes.
I hope the
Yes,
session
Rita.
has been enlightening one. And on behalf of the HSNC University, HR College of Commerce and Economics, and Department of Commerce and Department of IKS, I would extend my gratitude and give gratitude towards engaging your time and giving your valuable inputs on this today's session. I think you have beautifully taken this journey from ancient wisdom as well as the knowledge of principles of Chanakya, Arthashastra, and connected very well with the leadership lessons, with all contemporary examples that you're given about Godrej as well as about Raymond's. So that will definitely be in the students' mind and they can easily connect. And our purpose of the department was to bring such kind of engaging sessions so that students can connect the ancient lessons with the contemporary management. So I would like to thank you for that. And I would also like to thank Madhu for getting such a good speaker and enlightening our students. Also,
My
I would like
pleasure
to thank
entirely.
Dharti as well as the entire team who has engaged this Zoom link, as well as Rani for connecting it with students. And overall, I think we should thank our madam, Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, who has encouraged us to engage such sessions because it's a series now, it will not end. It is just a beginning. So we want our students to connect with such ancient wisdom. So we are just at the beginning stage and more so much.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Simmin. And thank you, audience, for being here. And students,
And
please do fill the feedback form.
also, the recording will be put up on YouTube channel of HR College. So you can share it with your friends also, because what we heard today was so important for a leader. And tomorrow you all are going to lead different organizations. So you have to keep in mind what a king in your language, or an employer, or someone who leads the organization should do and should not do. It's like do's and don'ts of an organizational leader, or a king, in our language, in our past. I'm sure you will take many, many lessons from here. So, all the best to all of you. And thank you for joining in. We cannot offer you any tea, coffees, Simmin, and pakoras, because it's raining outside. But I'm sure students, please make it at home from your mother and eat it. Simmin, from our side, when you come offline, it's on us.
Definitely, ma'am. And I'll just like to say that in case if you can also bring in a lecture on Bhagavad Gita and the management principles, that would be great. I teach that in my own college, and I think that it's got some valuable, hugely valuable insights. Just the conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjun, it's got a lot to offer to all the students from different points of.
Done.
That's
Done,
it.
Rita, your next session already
Yes,
planned.
yes, 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 yes.
I did not mean to
Done.
bring me, but I just
No,
meant
no.
that anybody.
In fact, I was even suggesting, Simin, because you look at historical perspectives of management. If we can bring in great rulers, it could be even Akbar.
Yes,
A
it
lot
has
of
to
things have
be.
been spoken
Yes,
about positive side of Akbar's
yeah.
leadership, and also there are many Indian leaders after independence who have brought in a lot of changes. I'm not talking about only political, but there have been lots of thought-provoking leaders who have brought in multiple changes in our system. So if we can have a compiled presentation on who were those leaders who have brought in those changes, and what were their key philosophies that the students of today should look at. So I would request departments of IKS and commerce to look at those leaders also from a business and a commerce point of view.
We can have a series, I think, like this.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I
Yes.
truly enjoyed, and I feel that
I'm very
session
excited if we can have a series.
session should be like
These
of
are series.
orienting teachers as well, so that we are
So
also,
maybe you can find 30 such series and
yeah.
make it as a certificate program by getting it passed in BOS of Commerce or IKS. I mean, this will be a legend series that we can say, historical legendary series. We can name it that way also.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
works, ma'am. That would be
yes.
in that entire package, they will get right from Chanakya Arthashastra to Bhagavad Gita, as well as the instrumental role the leaders have played.
Yes, yes. Why
Very true.
not?
Let's plan that.
So, Simmin,
I
you have
think
already been booked in.
Madhu can be helpful to us there.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And thank you so
Yes.
much for giving me this opportunity.
It was a telepathy, because I was just about to think कि मैम इसको certificate course में क्यों नहीं convert करें, and ma'am hit that immediately. So it was just
So
like,
it's like your wish is my
yes,
order for my
yes.
command. So Genie has understood your need.
Because
No,
this kind of course is
but
required.
I'm
Like,
sure you, very true.
students need
But I'm
holistic view.
sure if you bring in 30 leaders of history from their managerial practices point of view, I think students will learn a lot. And
Yeah,
today, I think our students need that.
yeah.
That uh, it's not about being aggressive leaders, it's about angry leaders. It's about calming down, managing your institutions in a subtle way, relaxing people, and making a comfortable environment. That is more important today.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Simon, Madhu,
Thank
Rita. I
Thank
can
you.
see all teachers of Commerce Department, just be Drishika. I can see Neha, Dharti. I saw Faiz sir. If I'm missing any teacher, I saw Rachna. So many teachers that joined in, and I'm sure such kind of talks will only enrich our information knowledge
Yes.
base. All the best to all of you. Nicely done. Students, can we request you all to put a clapping emoji for Semin ma'am and your Department of Commerce on the screen? I can see Harsh already sending flower and the petals to us. Thank you, Harsh. Very nice. He's the only one spreading petals of flowers. Very nice.
Students are requested to again see that you fill the feedback form before leaving the group.
So,
Thank
Simran,
you
these
so
claps
much,
are for
Pooja
you.
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
all the students. Thank you, Pooja ma'am, and the entire management and staff of HSNC University, especially Department of Commerce and IKS. I take your leave now. Bye-bye. All the
Bye.
best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.